Who knew horror could be so beautiful?
As I arrived at the factory, I took a deep breath, bracing myself for another long night. The factory was located in a remote part of the town, and it was well known for its haunted history. The locals had always told stories about strange occurrences in the factory, from unexplained noises to mysterious shadows that would move on their own. I had worked the night shift at the factory for several years, and I had never seen anything out of the ordinary. But on this particular night, something felt different. The air was thick with an ominous energy, and the darkness seemed to loom over me like a heavy shroud. As I made my way inside the factory, I noticed that the atmosphere was unusually quiet. The usual hum of the machines was absent, and the air was still. I checked in with the security guard, and he handed me the keys to the factory. As I walked towards the entrance, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was no one there. I shrugged it off and entered the factory. The factory was dimly lit, with only a few lights illuminating the machines. I made my way to the office to check in with my boss, but he wasn't there. I assumed he had left for the night and decided to get started on my work. I spent the first few hours of my shift checking on the machines and making sure everything was running smoothly. But as the night wore on, I began to feel uneasy. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, and I couldn't ignore the strange noises I was hearing. As I made my way down one of the long, dark hallways, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was a shadowy figure, but as I turned to get a better look, it disappeared. I tried to shake it off as my imagination playing tricks on me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to head back to the office to check in with my boss again, but when I got there, he still wasn't there. I tried calling him on his cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I began to panic, wondering where he could be. I decided to check the security cameras to see if I could find any clues. As I watched the footage, my heart sank. My boss had been captured by a faceless demon. The creature had come out of nowhere, grabbing my boss and dragging him away. I watched in horror as my boss disappeared into the darkness, never to be seen again. I was alone in the factory, and I didn't know what to do. The factory felt like a maze, and I knew that I could easily get lost. I tried calling the police, but the phone lines were dead. I decided to try to find my way out of the factory. I followed the dimly lit corridors, my heart racing as I tried to ignore the strange sounds and movements around me. As I rounded a corner, I saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway. It was the same figure I had seen earlier, and this time, I knew it was real. As I approached the figure, I saw that it was a faceless demon. Its body was shrouded in darkness, and I could feel its malevolent energy radiating towards me. I froze, unsure of what to do next. The creature seemed to sense my fear, and it started moving towards me. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear the creature's footsteps behind me, and I knew that I had to keep running. As I ran, I could feel the creature's breath on my neck. Its laughter echoed through my head, and I knew that it was enjoying the chase. I kept running, desperately searching for a way out of the factory. Finally, I saw a faint light in the distance. I ran towards it, hoping that it was the way out. As I got closer, I realized that it was the exit door. I pushed it open with all my might, and I stumbled out into the fresh air. As I caught my breath, I turned back towards the factory. The faceless demon was standing in the doorway, watching me with its empty eyes. It seemed to be taunting me, daring me to come back, but I knew that I couldn't go back. I had to find a way to get help and find my boss. I ran towards the town, hoping that someone would be able to assist me. When I arrived at the police station, I was out of breath and shaking. I explained what had happened to the officer on duty, but he didn't believe me. He thought that I was making up a story to cover up my boss's disappearance, but I knew that what I had seen was real. The faceless demon had taken my boss, and it was still out there, lurking in the darkness. I knew that I had to find a way to stop it before it could harm anyone else. Over the next few weeks, I searched for any information I could find on the faceless demon. I talked to the locals, and I scoured the internet for any clues, but nothing turned up. Eventually, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I returned to the factory, armed with a flashlight and a crucifix. I made my way through the dark corridors, calling out to the faceless demon. After hours of searching, I finally found it. It was hiding in a dark corner waiting for its next victim. But this time, I was ready. I held up the crucifix and the demon recoiled in fear. I knew that I had to act quickly. I threw the crucifix at the demon and it disintegrated in a burst of light. The demon let out a blood-curdling scream and then it was gone. I returned to the police station and this time they listened to me. We searched the factory and we found my boss's remains. He had been torn apart by the demon and his body was scattered throughout the factory. The faceless demon was never seen again, but I still have nightmares about it to this day. I know that it could come back at any moment, lurking in the darkness, waiting for its next victim. But I also know that I will be ready for it. I will never forget what I saw that night, and I will always be vigilant against the darkness that lurks in the shadows.
Like, subscribe, and smash the bell for more beautiful horror.